creating shift, doing self-work, taking big steps in business. These are all huge, challenging concepts that I have struggled with, and I know many of you struggle with. However, oftentimes working with a business coach or even a counselor just isn't getting it done. Listen to this interview with Maggie Saunders, where she outlines what is hypnotherapy and how it can help you create the change you need in your life. Hi, my name's Laura, and on this channel, I help you gain optimal health through knowledge and movement. Hello. So excited to see everyone. I think I'm gonna open my window a little bit more here. Let the light in. Oh, that is so much better. Oh, I'm so happy to be on Instagram. I was just outside. Hello, everyone. Okay, we have Maggie.
Hi.
Hi.
Let me scoot you back just a little bit. Like very front and center. Hold on.
I know it's very interesting getting like on the gram when there's two people with the screen. It's like, where is a good spot?
This is nice and cozy. How are you?
Good. Your hair looks gorgeous.
Thank you. That's just, it was a God-given thing. I don't really do anything with it, but I appreciate it. So
I know
it's going to go up soon because I'll get hot. But
you had at one point the curtain bang.
Yeah.
And like, I saw pictures of you with the curtain bang and I'm like, I want the curtain bang, and I try it, but like, I can't train it to stay. It just ends up.
Yeah. So I still have it now, but I just don't have it parted like that. But my hairdresser taught me you have to, like, when you're dry, after they're dry, you pin them with like these little pins and it will train them eventually.
Oh.
But when I don't want to deal with it, I just let my like cowlick take over.
Yeah, that's what I do. I just do that situation.
It's just easier.
Yes. Well, I'm so excited that I get to chat with you. And I would love, as people are joining, and also for our audience who will watch later, if you can just give yourself like a little introduction, let everyone know who you are and your background.
Sure. So my name is Maggie Saunders. I'm a certified hypnotherapist and a self-reclamation coach for women. And other than that, I'm also the youngest of 6 girls. I have 5 older sisters. I live in Los Angeles. I love to cook. I love to bake. I love watching movies and singing. And I want to move to Hawaii, and that may be a thing that's happening kind of soon. So there's some background about me. And I came to this work because this exact work is what changed my life. And then especially the self-reclamation work has really more come to me than I've like sought it out. And yeah, that's like the basics.
Yes. So okay. So a little bit of background also for people to know. I was introduced first to Maggie through Danica Bryshaw, who I talk about quite a bit. But she is amazing. You can go to her account, see what she is all about. But she had worked with Maggie, and I kept like, I think I emailed you, or I would like start an email and then I wouldn't send it. And then I'd start an email and I wouldn't send it. And then I'd creep on you on Instagram, and then I'd be like, and I sent an email and you were like, this is how you can interact with me, and this is how we can work together. And then I was like, okay, I'll consider it. And I think it was like a year of doing that before I finally was like, I am ready. I am here. Let's do this. And so I just, that was so interesting. So it's been really cool to see your business and you just like progress and grow and expand. So that's been really, really neat. But I'm like so fascinated as to how you got to being a hypnotherapist and how did you get here?
Yes. So I do remember that back and forth between us. And that is a very normal thing. All the women that come to me, because I work 99% of the time with women, they're always like, I've been thinking about this, or I see them like liking stuff or commenting on stuff. But then one day an email comes in, and it's because it's always at the exact right time. So, but your question about becoming a hypnotherapist. So before I ever tried hypnotherapy and before I became a hypnotherapist, I thought it was total BS. I thought it was magic and like this really weird, like sideshow kind of thing, because I'd only been accustomed to it in like fairs or magic shows or Vegas, and that's like, called entertainment hypnosis, which is totally different than hypnotherapy, because hypnotherapy is like therapy. It's not to entertain anybody. But when how many years ago, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, I was working at this adult summer camp called Soul Camp, which was so amazing. And there was a hypnotherapist there, and my friend convinced me to go to her like workshop. And I was just like, this is so ridiculous. And then she was like, okay, sit down. Now close your eyes and take a nice deep breath. And I'm going to count down to 10 as we relax. And then she was like, okay, open your eyes. And I was like, that was so dumb. Like, why did we do this? And my friend was like, it's been 45 minutes, Maggie. And I was like, what?
You're like,
and I went out into like a totally different place. I saw myself in a totally different way, but I didn't really remember it, which is what some people are like in hypnotherapy. So then fast forward about 2 years, I'm in a women's group and I'm offered these free hypnotherapy sessions. So I start doing them and I'm not really paying attention to it. And then suddenly my life starts shifting. Like, me and my partner are getting along better. I'm fighting less with like my mind about food and body, and I'm accepting myself more. I'm making more money than I've ever made. And I'm like, what is going on? And then my partner was like, aren't you doing hypnotherapy? And I was like, oh my gosh. And then when I traced it back, I was like, this is everything we've been working on. And that is always the story with clients. It's always a subtle shift. It's not like suddenly everything's different. But so then I was like, I have to do this. So I decided to become a hypnotherapist, and I got trained because you really shouldn't do hypnotherapy with somebody who isn't trained, just because they're dealing with your subconscious mind. So, I mean, you shouldn't just go to like any person for your pelvic floor. Like, you need somebody who's trained in that. No matter how many books they've read. So yeah, it was like my own journey, and it changed my life. And I love that because I didn't go looking for it. It like came looking for me almost.
And is the what does the training entail?
Yeah. So for me, it was several years of training. And what it entails is like the first half of it really was about learning about what is the subconscious mind, learning the history of hypnotherapy, because it goes back all the way to the Egyptians. They originally used it, and what they're called sleep temples is what it was called then. And then it's been used over time. It's been used in war. It's been used not to harm anyone in war, but to act as a natural painkiller, to help people survive. And so you learn about that, and you really learn about the subconscious mind. And then I took a lot of time to learn about the real neuroscience behind it, because I actually used to work at a brain training center. So I got to learn that side of like, not only how does it feel, but what's it literally doing to your brain? If you're connected to an EEG machine, what is it actually doing when you're in hypnosis? Because for me, I needed to understand that, how's the frontal lobe going? How's the pituitary gland connected to all of this? And then it goes into, I'm trying to remember what happened next. Then it's like you start getting clients and letting them know that, you're still a student, or I was still a student. And I was really blessed because I was supposed to get 6 clients in 6 weeks, and I ended up getting 60 clients in 6 weeks. So like, again, a vote of the universe that was just like, this is what you should be doing. And then after accruing all my hours, then having to take a test to officially be certified, and then here we are. So
Wow.
it takes a lot, and it can take longer the more you want to know. And I wanted to kind of be an expert. I didn't want to just be the baseline.
Right.
So.
And I think the other thing too, which has been really cool to watch you on your platform, is I can tell you are a very grounded person. And I think that that's something that's really important when you are seeking therapy from anyone. Is it was kind of nice to almost get a little bit of a glance into like, okay, what is Maggie like, you know, throughout her day and all of that stuff, because you can get a chance to I could get a chance to almost meet you before meeting you. So I think that that's really nice. And especially now you have a lot of awesome offerings that are free, which one of the things you offered to my community is if they direct message you, you can get a download where you go and take them through that guided process, which I think is awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's open to anyone. That's open to anyone like who watches this video in the future, who sees it right now. If you didn't see the original, anyone on this, you know, in Laura's community, I'm more than anything want to give you a free resource, because I am not attached to people working with me. If anything, I'm attached with people finding what serves them. If that's me, cool. If I can facilitate them finding somebody else, great. But yeah.
And I think one of the things I found really fascinating in your takeover was you shared some of the other applications that you use hypnotherapy with some of your other clients. So one that really piqued my interest was the one about pain. So I talk to a lot of people, and kind of my bread and butter is pelvic pain, abdominal pain, and pain with intercourse, pain with bladder emptying, all of that stuff. And I was like, and I know one time I remember us working in session and you were saying something about with delivery, you will work with people and they don't call it a contraction, but like a burst or something.
They call it a surge. A surge, yeah.
Yes. So I would love for you to kind of explain, how, because I feel like in my head I was like, okay, I get it. Like I've heard it for smoking, stopping smoking, or this or that. But I was really surprised to hear some of these other ways that you apply it with your clients.
Yeah. So one of the biggest things I use it with for slightly older generations that tend to come to me, or athletes or women who want to get pregnant or just gave birth, which I'm sure you get plenty of those people as well. But really what it is in like pain management with hypnotherapy is when you expect something to hurt, it already does. Yeah. So it's like, to me, it was like when I was little and they had to prick my finger to like draw blood for some, simple test. I was so worked up. My mind was so scared of what was going to happen. They could have done anything and it would hurt. Right. Even like I remember they would use like the little alcohol swab and I would be like, ow, oh my gosh, that hurt so much. Because my brain's primed for it. So if I work with somebody who's dealing with, like you put a great example, I have somebody who has a lot of pain during intercourse, she did, it's reducing now, but, it's because she's already anticipating the pain. So all of her muscles are contracting. Her subconscious mind is telling her body to prepare for danger, for pain, for discomfort. So it's already happening. And it's similar, I say, to if somebody was like, watch out. Your body, even though nothing is behind, even in that moment, you're like, oh, okay.
Yes.
Because we are primed to do that. So what I help women do, if it's in urination or in contractions or in intercourse, whatever it might be, or people who have pain like back pain when they sleep, it's priming their brain to relax so that their body relaxes, because our subconscious mind is telling all these little muscles and nerves what to do. So if you don't address that and you just use painkillers or stretching or whatever it might be, that may get you great results, but you can always get deeper results when you include the mind.
Right.
Because the mind is what's telling everything to do everything.
Mm-hmm.
So that's really how I use it. And I have like some recordings for that. If you have anyone who has, a question about that, I'm happy to send that along for free.
Yes.
But just, yeah, if you can get your mind relaxed, your body will follow.
Yes. Yeah. So I don't know if you find this, but I have a voice. So when I'm I have to do internal work, whether it's rectally or vaginally.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'll be chit-chatting, okay, we're palpating the muscles. And then someone will say, oh, ouch. And I say, okay. And I'm like, all right, I'm going to gently push into your muscle. And now you're going to breathe and we're going to release into that pressure. And I go into like this voice and like people always be like, oh, your voice is so calming. And then I'll like go back, chit, chat, and I'll be like, ouch. And I'll be like, okay, now give me your leg.
Mm-hmm.
Just let your leg be on me. And so I have to laugh because I'm like, in my head, I'm like, my voice will penetrate their mind.
Exactly.
I will get them to relax. You are relaxing. So,
yeah.
Yes. But I know yours is much more than just saying words like I am. Like you have a set process for how you bring someone into and out of that experience.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Exactly.
And is it always the same, or is there like research or evidence behind it being that sort of, I do this because I know what it is?
Yeah.
Maybe you can share it.
Yes. Like basically the process of taking someone in and out. So there is research for different people, but it really is more for me intuition of like, if somebody's a very gentle soul, then I'm not going to use really directive language with them, like close your eyes, calm down, whatever. Mm-hmm. But when I work with people who have been in the military, I do that. Because in the military, and I've never been in the military, so I don't know much, but what I do know is that they've been taught to listen to orders to stay alive. Like you don't question orders, you just go with them. So that serves me to be like, close your eyes, take a deep breath, calm down. That fits them. But for other people, they would never want that. So it is the tone of my voice. It's the cadence of my voice that I'm changing. So it isn't like, and you were describing it perfectly, because when we slow down our voice and then when we drop it down, things immediately get more relaxed and our brain goes like, oh, okay. And our brain waves actually change. So the general process is like getting them to scan their body, to remember they're in a body, because we often act like we live like right here, like we're like right behind our head.
Oh my gosh, yes.
And so it's coming back into our body, especially for women, because a lot of us have experienced trauma or fear in our body, so we leave it instinctively, but coming back. And then it's taking them through some sort of like numbers or letters or some sort of pattern that makes their brain understand like what's going to come next. So that's like as simple as counting down from 100 or saying the alphabet or whatever. It pulls us into this like very natural state. And then it's like taking them a level deeper into some type of imagery that like makes them even more relaxed. And then there's different things that I can do to test how relaxed they are. And all of my sessions are phone sessions, but if they were in person, there's also physical things I could do with their permission that allow me to know that. And then we get to do all that work in the relaxed state while continuing to deepen it. So the way I think of it is like, first you take a step down into getting into the body, and then you take a bigger step down and relaxing, and then you take a super big step down, and then you kind of stay down here, and then it's like slowly coming back up to come out, because I don't want to, I don't want anybody to come out and like not be fully alert, but it is a pattern. And then it's also just following the client, because sometimes they'll be like, oh, I feel really dizzy, or I'm feeling really anxious now, because relaxing can be anxious because we don't do it naturally. And sometimes when I go into hypnosis with my hypnotherapist, I do that and I get really like stressed because I don't feel in control.
Right.
And she has to remind me to like chill, like
right.
You know what's happening.
Right.
But yeah, it's kind of like you, I'm sure in your work, you don't just immediately do something.
No.
There's always a pattern that allows
yes.
their brain to like chill out.
Yeah. And they can, it's sort of something that they can expect. And count on. It is interesting to me when I'm wanting someone to relax and they keep chatting. And I'll say, like the room, you can feel everything kind of like the air almost stops and pauses. And in that pause, suddenly they're like, oh, and I forgot to tell you, my credit card changed and we need to change that on the billing. And I'm like, what the heck? Where did that come from? You know, and I'll be like, okay. And I'm like, thank you for sharing that information with me. I will remember it and we'll make sure to address that. Now I'm going to have you go ahead and then usually it is a physical cue of like, okay, I'm going to have you take a breath and notice the quality of the air you're drawing in or whatever it is. But it is funny to me in those moments. And I can almost guess who that person will be that will continue to talk with me. And some people, they can't stop, even though I try to redirect. So then sometimes I'm like, you know what? We're just going to lean into it. We're going to, okay, let's talk about the credit card. And then let's talk about the next thing that comes up. And then let's talk about the next thing that comes up. And then afterwards, I'll say, you know, did you maybe notice? And they're like, oh, I just felt like I couldn't shut up. And I'm like, that's okay.
Yeah, totally. Totally. I feel you there. Well, because in sessions I do, when I'm doing hypnotherapy, there's like a first few minutes to kind of reacclimate what's been going on, what's been changing. And then some people never want to stop. Because the thing is people are, and me included, we are stuck in the story of what's going on and we like to reiterate it, go over it, like see if we were right, were they right, what should I do next? We're very like cognitive and we're like, what's going on? So to get somebody to be like, just really, you don't have to do anything. Just like, don't talk or just be there. For some people, that's so uncomfortable. It like actually causes them pain. So I do the same thing where sometimes I'm like, okay, no more. You don't have to be like authoritative. And then sometimes I recognize like I can think of clients who at home, they don't get to talk. Like no one listens to them. So sometimes it's also like that is relaxing to them. Just like tell you about what they did this weekend.
Oh, I for sure word vomited right into your ears for sure. Cause I was just like, I have to report the things and she knows everything. It was like, you know, this is this provider and she has the timeline and I want to update her on the timeline.
Yeah.
We can't miss any point along the timeline. Like, it's like, okay, I saw you this day. And then I was like, okay. And then this day, this happened. And then this day. And then now we are to this exact moment. And now I'm on the phone with you, Maggie. And you're like, okay, thank you for that.
Which is useful. And in the work we did, you know, it is looking at your patterns and going day by day like that. And some people are super structured like that in their mind. And then other people, that would be like the hardest thing for them to do to like retrace their steps. But it's so good because it lets you be like, did you notice that on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, you played out this pattern? And then you get to be like, oh. Whereas if you weren't paying attention to that, then you would have never caught the pattern and been able to shift it. Or with you, I remember it was often like, I saw it on Tuesday, so I made a difference Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Which is the whole point of doing any of this work.
So I'm always interested when I get people on here to interview them, especially as, because I've had a lot of like entrepreneurs and all, and people in the health and wellness industry. How do you yourself stay grounded, Because I know personally, and I know you know this, and I actually had someone call me out on it today, actually. They said, you always talk about being calm and patient, except you always share about your exercising and not about any of your like down relaxing time. And I was like, that's because I don't really actually do any down relaxing time. And I've been trying to do more of it, but it's usually like straight away when I wake up in the morning or like as I'm trying to fall asleep. And so that tends to be, I'm not picking up my phone to be on like Instagram or whatever, but it's usually like a bookend. And so they just said, I just thought that was interesting. Like you don't really seem to ever relax. And I was like, noted. I know, exactly. Yeah. So for you, how, like, I know you shared that beautiful morning routine, which I was like, just let me scroll back and watch that on repeat.
Yeah. Just steal it.
Yeah. Yes.
So that's a great question. And this is something I constantly have to come back to. And I was even listening to a podcast a few days ago that was saying, you know, you can only serve people as much as you're letting yourself be served. Mm-hmm. And I really resonated with that. It's like, if you're helping everybody else, who's helping you? Mm-hmm. And that's the question I'm often asking myself. So I do hypnotherapy regularly with myself and with a practitioner. I used to go to both couples therapy and personal therapy like every other week, flip them back and forth. And that's gotten a little less organized right now because of, you know, the world. Yeah. But that's still there. And then the way I really stay grounded is I am really serious about my schedule. So I like, because I run a group program now that's on Sundays and Wednesdays, on Mondays is like my off day to catch up on all the admin stuff, to do those nitpicky things. Mm-hmm. And then Tuesday, Thursday are client days. Wednesdays, I have work, and then I take a big rest before I have a coaching call, like 2 hours at least. And then Fridays are off. And I really realized that if I let that slip and if I don't honor that, I almost always regret it. I'm almost always like, why did I do that? Right. Because I constantly have to remind myself that like wherever I'm going, this like date where everything's done and I can finally relax doesn't exist. Mm-hmm. Like it's not, where is that? Mm-hmm. So I have to constantly remind myself of that. Mm-hmm. And then, yeah, it's like the sacred start that I showed, starting my morning, even if it's like 30 seconds of like listening to a song or pulling a card from, I don't do tarot, but I do, what are they called? I have them right
like
here.
Angel oracle cards or.
Yeah, like an oracle card or something just to get my mind like away from business and entrepreneurship and social media and all that. Mm-hmm. And then those are my big things. I like to take baths, like stuff like that. But I really try to remember that I am a person and a soul first, and then an entrepreneur and a CEO and a helper and a coach next. It's not like the other way around, which I have to constantly remind myself of. And some days are certainly easier than others.
Right. Yeah. So I think this is so fascinating because I was talking with another good friend of mine, and I was saying, why are our brains wired like this? Why is it flip-flopped? Because she sent me some funny meme, and I was like, and it was something, I think it was about not shutting off the mind, but it was I basically kind of exactly what you were saying, prioritizing and switching that priority. And I'm like, seriously, like who programmed us this way? Because like what she was doing is like we'll fill every single moment of her day with something, but like it would be like, okay, so I worked all day, and then okay, now I'm going to paint, and then I paint, and then once I'm done painting, now I'm going to like knit or cook. And it was like, why can't we just like sit and be? Yeah, you know? And yeah, and I just find it because she's like, I love painting, but when she looked at what it was actually just like this anxiety of doing stuff.
Yeah. Oh, I was just thinking about this today and writing something on it because I've seen this in a lot of clients because of what's going on with COVID, quarantine, kids at home, like this whole thing is that we're all trapped at home with our feelings now because we can't go to the movies and we can't go to bars and we can't go to concerts and we can't do all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so all these feelings that we run from are catching us and we're like, oh wow, that's a lot to take on.
Right.
But that's where like the doing comes from. And then I talk a lot about this on my page and in my work, that we were programmed at such a young age in the United States to always do more, always be moving, make more money, be more successful, go to school, then go to college, and be straight A's. And that's how we got like accolades. That's how we assumed we got love. So it literally programmed our brains to be like, if we're not working, we're failing. Right. And I often think of this man who worked before I did any of this work, I worked in San Francisco at a recruiting firm, and we had an intern come from Germany, and he sat across from me, and he was like, after a few like months of working there, he was like, Americans are so weird. And I was like, but why? Why do you think they're weird? And he was like, because you just like, you work and then you go home and you work some more and then you eat dinner and then you keep working and then you wake up and you work and you go to work and you work. And then even on the weekends you're sending emails. And I was like, yeah, this is true, especially in like a place like San Francisco.
Yes.
And I was like, well, what is it where you are? He was like, everyone just goes to work, whatever their job is, from like 9 to 4:30. And then everyone goes and does their like hobby. So if it's like, or just like goes to the bar and watches something on TV or goes on a walk with their friend or plays a sport. That's what everyone does. And then you go and eat lunch or dinner with your family. And then you do something else, like you watch or read or write or paint, and then you go to sleep. But you don't think about work at all outside of work. Like he said it would be very, very weird, at least in his, world, to like email after you left work. Like that would be like something really bad has happened.
Wow.
And I was like, you're right. And I know you're doing this and constantly doing the work around this, but really saying like, kind of giving the middle finger to like that hyper production.
Right.
And the idea of like, you'll rest once you're retired or once you're dead. Like,
yes.
So for me, it's like really looking at how can we add pleasure back into our life.
Yes.
Without it being a reward.
Right.
Like, it's just being, cause today at lunch, I made pasta, which I was like, you can't make pasta at lunchtime. You have to eat like protein, carb, and fat. I was like,
right.
Definitely can eat pasta at lunchtime.
Right.
Like, why not?
Right.
Just little things like that.
Right. And I think it comes back to like what you were saying too about your schedule. Cause I know if you send Maggie an email and it is during the weekend, your email says, I honor the natural rhythms of my body of rest and play. And I'm not answering emails on the weekend. I will get back to you on Monday or whatever it is you say. And then you're like, love and light, Maggie, you and I'm always like, oh, and so I don't actually delete those. I save those. And I'm like, at some point I am going to put this in and be able to honor that. But it is really uncomfortable to like, it's weird. It's you have to get the repetitions in of practicing, not because my brain like immediately when I'm not working, I just want to, I'm just like, well, I'm just sitting here I've been watching Schitt's Creek. I love it.
Oh,
and
nice.
I'm like, well, maybe while I'm watching this, I can just like write some ideas down for work stuff. And it's like it's nearly impossible to sit there and not do that. So I think it's cool when you hear other people and how they've sort of cultivated that over time.
Yeah. Yeah. And I've learned now to, when I'm doing that or when I'm like obsessively checking my email, even though I literally just checked it or Instagram, whatever, I finally learned that that is my, like, that's my signal that something's off. And it's the same for me because I used to be, I used to binge eat, like, I mean, for such a long part of my life that now I'm like, why do you want to buy and eat 2 bags of Doritos? Not that I can't or not that I shouldn't, but that's an interesting urge. Like, and sometimes I let myself do it and I'm like, I don't care. It doesn't happen much, but it makes me be like, something's going on. And it's always the same with work. And so it doesn't necessarily mean I don't work, but I will be like, okay, though I am going to check this again, I need to see what's going on. And it's always for me that, like, I'm feeling nervous or I'm about to pay for something really expensive and my brain's like obsessing over productivity because I think that's what's going to like make the money back.
Right.
Or I had like I fussed with my partner or something and I just want that feeling of control because I really think that's what it comes down to is like wanting to be in control of it.
Right.
But, and that like away message that you mentioned, I invite you to take that when it feels good for you. But I have received so many messages, like so many, more than I could ever imagine, of people being like, oh my gosh, I love that email, or this is fantastic, or I'm going to do that now, or what in the heck is this? Because it's so like, they think it's so like, what is happening?
Right. Because it's not just because my typical one is I am like out of the office until this date. I will have limited internet access. Like that's usually what it is. And I usually say limited because that means I'm still going to get back to you.
Yeah, totally.
That's what it means.
So I basically have to do it like that so that I'm not only like telling them I won't get back to you, but I'm telling myself like I won't get back to them. But it's become fun because I have it on my calendar because Google doesn't allow you to like automate it. And at first I hated that, but now I love it because on Fridays at like 4:00, I think it is, I have it so that it says like set your away message. And when I do it with a lot of like, I'm so grateful that I get to do this, that I get to take this time. And sometimes I still answer things like if I'm having a boring weekend or it's bothering me. But I've made it like a celebration thing, which especially during this whole quarantine thing that we're in currently, it's like something to look forward to. And for me, I feel like there's not a lot of that right now.
Right.
So it helps.
Yes. Yeah. And so I know you alluded to this, but I would love to hear more about this group that you're facilitating, because I think for some people, and I know for myself, and we kind of talked about this when people go back and forth on diving in for hypnotherapy or any type of therapy, whether it's physical therapy, taking that time for themselves is challenging. I think the investment of money is challenging. And I think sometimes knowing that you're going to be fully seen and like kind of held accountable to some degree, and you're having this check-in person can be challenging. And not to say you're not having those same things in a group, but I personally think groups can be really neat because it's like a team. And I came from a sporting background. Yeah. And so I can wrap my head around like, okay, this group, this facilitation. So I think there's some really cool opportunities there. So I'd love to hear more about it.
Yeah, of course. I love sharing about it. So my group's called Return to You. It's 12 weeks long. And it's a small group of women. And it's really based on this framework I designed called the 7 levels of the subconscious self. It's quite the tongue twister. 7 levels of subconscious self. And it's really what I found through hundreds of client hours of what needs to be addressed to get deep lasting change for women. And it's things like how to self-nurture, how to trust yourself again, how to stop treating your body as your enemy and like punishing it for everything you dislike about your life, how to find divine balance. And divine balance is like your masculine side and your feminine side, which we all have regardless of gender. Things like that. And then also it's both the internal work using hypnotherapy and mindset techniques, but it's also the external work of like, okay, if you say you want peace and relaxation in your life, what is that? Like, where is that? Where are you going to put it? What are you going to have to let go of? What expectations of yourself are you going to have to change? And so the reason I love it is because I call it a circle, because I'm not like on a stage and they're looking. I'm part of the circle. So the women in the group that I'm in, that I have right now, they're teaching me just as much as I'm teaching them, and they're teaching each other. It's like this web of information. And it's really about, my biggest role in it is holding them accountable to what they say they want to do, and just also holding the vision for who I know they can be. Not who they keep acting like they are. So the difference of like acting like, you know, they can never change and they have to be perfect to be loved and they have to be an overachiever. I'm like, no, I refuse to agree with that. And I will hold firm in that. With a lot of gentleness and a lot of groundedness. And I always get the note, they're always like, you're like this like mother nature kind of energy. I get that like all the time. And yeah, being that like that warrior for who they really are. And so we meet twice a week. We do like a training call on Sundays and a coaching call on Wednesdays. So it's a lot of time with me. And then they get private sessions with me, and they also get email access to me and Voxer access, that like amazing app that I love. I don't know if you use Voxer.
No, what is it?
Oh my gosh. So Voxer is like a walkie-talkie app essentially. So if we're Voxer friends, I could be sending you a message and you could listen to it in real time, or you could listen to it like 3 days from now, but you could also text as well or send pictures. But I love it because it allows you to have really fast communication, but it's something in my brain treats it differently than like if it was just on like your iMessages.
Yes.
Plus you can speed up the voice messages up to 4 times as fast. And I like that because I'm like, let's go. I can be a fast talker. But the other part of the group that I love and that is funny to me is like, I think I told you this, like 9 out of the 11 women that are currently in it came for one-on-one work. And they were like, I don't do well in groups. I'm like I compare myself and then I get in my head and I get scared of being seen. Like you said, like it's courageous to be seen.
Yes.
But now all of them are like, oh my gosh, not anything against you, Maggie, but I'm so glad it wasn't just you. Because they get to see, and I feel this deeply as well, the other women say exactly what they're thinking.
Right.
Like other women to be like, I just feel like I'm not doing enough and I'm so scared, like I'm not going to make enough money and I'm going to be so like upset that I, you know, left my job or switched my career, whatever. And the other women are like, that's exactly what I'm thinking.
Right.
Like I just said that today.
Right.
And it reminds everyone's brain that like our fear is not unique to us.
Right.
We don't have to internalize it as like something wrong with us.
Right.
It's often just programmed into us. It's perpetuated by media. It doesn't have to be like so viscerally scary.
Right.
So that's what it is. It's like enrollment starts in September 2020 for the next round.
Wow.
But I'm really just in this spot with all the work that I do. And I'd love to hear your point of view on this as well. But just in this spot that like who is meant to come will come to me. And that trying to find them like never really works anyways. You know, it's like the difference of like running around the crowd being like, do you want my flyer? Do you want my flyer? Do you want my flyer? Or just having like this beautiful poster that you stand under and just like wait.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Does that like resonate with you at all?
Yes, definitely. So, I was trying to think up this past couple of weeks, how do I get new clients? How do I get in front of new faces? for my one-on-one patient care stuff because I have to be licensed in the state to work with someone. And so even like on here, I've had several people reach out, but they're not in my state, so I can't work with them. And I'm in a somewhat small community. It's not super small. I mean, there's like 100,000 people in Rochester, but it's there's no really big towns around it, and it has one kind of big medical institution, and then it has another kind of bigger medical institution, and so they keep both of those institutions keep everything in-house for the most part. And so it's hard to get referrals and clients. And so when it was pre-COVID, you could go to, say, a CrossFit gym or an Orange Theory Fitness or whatever, and you could say, I'm going to hold a workshop. And you could have this, like you said, beautiful poster, and whoever wanted to show up to your 7 p.m. workshop would show up, and you'd talk to them, and you'd have this beautiful heart space moment. You could teach them something, and then they would come find you. Well, now it's like, okay, like I have to call the people, then people don't call you back, then they're like, who are you? I don't really know you. You don't come work out at our gym. I don't want you to necessarily come talk to our community because I can't trust you. And it's just like sitting here and I'm like, this is so challenging. So I personally am doing a huge shift. I feel like it's huge. So August 15th and 16th, I'm doing the online workshop, which I'm really excited to do. But the shift that I'm doing is we're going to start doing more online workshops, but not even that people have to show up to, because I was also finding that even though I have like an August 15th sign up session and an August 16th sign up session, if people, you know, can't attend at 10 o'clock on the 15th and at 7 o'clock on the 16th, well, then that's limiting. And so, so we're going to do a big push to have me video and then create courses that then people can purchase with the aim to basically almost create a continuing education company, but it would be all for like normal people. So instead of me teaching physical therapists, which is what a lot of people go after, I'll just be doing essentially client-patient education. And I'm really excited about it because it serves my mission of decreasing the gap for access to good care. Which is important, and it helps empower people, and it can be more affordable than coming to me. And it can get me in front of new, fresh eyes, and it can exist forever on the internet. So, but again, like all things, these shifts, as you know, take time. And like, it just hit me over the head, I think like last week. And then I really started kind of sitting into it this week, and then it's like, okay, now we have to figure out how to I have to figure out how to shoot the video and how not to go on and on and on, because I have so much knowledge and I want to give it to people, all of it, and I have to remember like just little snippets so they purchase multiple courses, because no one wants to attend a 5 million hour course. So it is, you know, but it's different because it's like, well, to some extent, I kind of want to say, well, F it. You don't want to send me patients, even though I'm a really good practitioner and I kind of want to give them the finger, or you don't want to call me back to have me do a free workshop to your community. Well, then, you know, you suck and I'll do this instead. And so I'm trying to work on not the you suck part. The instead saying like, okay, we're going to shift and do something else, you know? And so it is, because it doesn't feel good to go knocking on doors, telling people what you do, and then having them, I had one person come back and say like, we have to be really careful where we send our patients now that it's COVID.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, it's not really your job to decide that, you know, or like,
mm-hmm.
or we'd love to send patients to you, but I just don't know that you're the right fit for us. And I'm like, the right fit for you? I worked with you and saw your patients like not even 6 months ago when I worked at, you know, at the clinic, and oh, it's just the same thing. I'm just not there, you know?
Right.
So it's just it is a big shift, but it feels empowering.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, to not have to go kind of beg, borrow, steal.
Right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, it's that difference of like, and this is something that I feel like people learn every year of entrepreneurship more and more. And some people don't ever learn it, and some people learn it in like different waves. But what I'm really hearing and like what you're saying, and I feel it so much too, is it's this difference of like letting go of what you don't have control over, and instead being like, that's annoying, that kind of sucks, it's frustrating or disappointing or whatever it is, but like, what can I do? Mm-hmm. Which is just like, and that's so much of the work we did together of not like, how can I get them to blank, but right. Like, how do I set boundaries and get out of there when they're not honoring them, or like right. Put my foot down and make the pivot. And I mean, when you were talking about it, before you even mentioned the online course, in my head, I'm going like online course. Mm-hmm. And I have this like totally different long background with like the business side of female entrepreneurship and like working in that world. And so to me, it totally makes sense, because I know one of your big, you know, pillars of why you do what you do is to make it accessible for people who can't do it, feel uncomfortable doing it, are not accepted where they live because of however their body is, or how they express themselves. And so it's like, for you, it's like the perfect fit, because the internet allows us to access people who could never find us.
Right.
It makes us though shift and pivot and be like different than maybe we ever expected.
Yeah. Initially. Yeah. And I think that's the thing that can be so weird sometimes, but also why it's been so wonderful, obviously working with you personally, and then seeing you have this offering for women where it can be a community thing. And like you said, that can make it more financially accessible to people. Yeah. Because the shift that happened from when I first saw you to now is like so night and day difference. But it's not like you changed me, like suddenly now I'm this different person. It's just you get much more clear, where it's just this real like freakish clarity of like, no, okay, like I can kind of sift through like, yes, no, yes, 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 no, 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 you know, and kind of move forward with things. So so it was like when you were talking with the takeover and you were saying other ways you were doing this stuff, I was like, my brain was suddenly like, well, wait a second. Wait, she helps people do other things than just this one small little box of what you had her do. Like, what do you mean you do those other things, Maggie? Like,
yeah, it's so much helpful, because the subconscious affects every single aspect of our life. It touches everything. Mm-hmm. But I do want to like honor and celebrate you for how different, not that being different is the point, but how I explain it. It's kind of like, once you do this work of self-reclamation, of coming back to who you are without the conditioning, without what your parents thought you should be, without what your partner or your girlfriends or TV or the internet or like whatever you've picked up on tells you who you are, it's as if you like took off 100-pound backpack, but you didn't even know you were wearing 100-pound backpack.
Right.
And so you take it off and you're like, what just happened? Mm-hmm. Like, where did the backpack come from?
Right.
And every once in a while you'll like pick up 10 pounds and then you'll be like, no, I don't want this. This is not mine. Putting it back down.
Right.
But not that like you turn into something else. It's almost more that you just return to who you are and you take off all the like layers of stuff.
Right.
And I mean, you do that in your career and personal life and your relationship to your mind, your body, your soul, all of it.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I mean, that's like my greatest joy, because I really believe men need this too, but that's just not my calling.
Right.
But women deserve to be able to be in who they are, mm-hmm. and not carry the weight of the world and not carry the expectations of who they should be, because women get so much done with so much thrown at them. Like when they take that off, their lives just explode.
Right.
Like
totally.
It's night and day.
And the other thing that is also interesting to me is to do the changes and to do the work in a way that is not mean to yourself. Like, mm-hmm. It wasn't like, not that my other counselors or therapists were mean, but it wasn't like this task master, drill sergeant, read this or do that. It was like a very gentle way of creating the shift and the change. And I think that's what's really neat about it. And I think too, during this crazy pandemic and everything, like having some softness is like what collectively would be really, really nice right now. And so I like cannot express it enough for people to message you to get that recording, to start weaving it in just in the morning, just in the evening, like you were saying, because you can start to feel the shift and the softness. And it's really amazing when you start to feel that and you're like, oh, I can go about this differently. I don't have to punish. I don't have to yell. I don't have to force. I can still get a lot of things done without doing it in a way, like you said, that you're just like gripping onto life, just like doing it, you know? And so I think that's really cool.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for saying that. That's something that I'm always like, I don't know if you've been asked this question ever, like at a conference or like, you know, different things you go to where you kind of have intro questions of like, what do you want someone to feel when they're with you? And for me, it has always been like welcomed or at home.
Right.
And I always think of this like mama bear energy or this like maternal energy. Not that I'm not a mom yet, but this feeling of just like, we don't have to go about this in like punishment and organization. And like the women I work with are big hearted, high achieving women. They've got that down. Like they're good. They don't need that. It's that like, let me just ground with you and let you know you're so loved and let you know you can change. And that's what the recordings do. And yeah, the recording that's offered to like, and if anybody from your community ever messaged me and was like, I'm really dealing with this pain or this fear, I'm happy to send a recording for free. I'm not attached to that. But it takes 4 minutes. Literally 4 minutes, 8 minutes if you do it twice a day. And what I find a lot of people fight it because they're like, it can't be that easy. And you know, like it actually can. It actually can, you know?
Yes.
But I really appreciate you saying that, because I always want people to feel that it's profound and you're held accountable, but in a gentle way. You can't do anything wrong with me. Like, I feel like I told you that all the time. You can't say it wrong. You can't do it wrong. It's impossible.
Right.
So let that go.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. No, I love it. Now, where can people find you and how best to connect?
Yes. So anyone can find me on Instagram at The Now Is Golden. And that's really where I feel like I do a lot of my conversing and talking and sharing. I love to send voice notes or videos. They can also email me at maggie@thenowisgolden.com. Or just go to my website, thenowisgolden.com, and they can learn more about Return to You there, or learn more about me, or see testimonials or whatever they'd like to see. But Instagram's really the place to be, just because it's so accessible, you know?
Right. And
Yeah.
I'm on one of the testimonials, so you can go ahead, check out my testimonial. It's really cute. It's super great. Well, thank you, Maggie, so much for being on. It was so amazing, and we will make sure to tag all of the things, and as always, so delightful.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much. It's been such a joy, so much fun. Thank you to your community. Thank you to you for trusting me. And yeah, I can't wait for more of this connecting.
Yay! Yay. Awesome. Well, I will talk to you later. Bye.
Okay. Bye, love.
Bye.